The newly received MANPADS from Sweden allowed Ukrainian forces to turn the tide in Toretsk by creating a lethal threat to Russian aviation. Euromaidan Press media outlet reports this. It is noted that as Ukrainian fighters began shooting down Russian aircraft, they not only disrupted enemy air support, but also forced Russian forces to scale back their countermeasures, allowing Ukraine to push deeper into the contested town. With the battle for Toretsk coming to a critical point, Ukrainian forces are determined to maintain their foothold on the edges of the settlement and prevent Russian attempts to break out and advance into more open terrain. The Ukrainian presence in the ruins of Toretsk not only prevents Russian forces from fully consolidating control, but also keeps the possibility of Ukrainian counteroffensives alive. Persistent counterattacks effectively drain Russian manpower and resources in brutal urban combat. These strikes prevent Russian forces from regrouping and fortifying their gains, keeping the battle dynamic and forcing the enemy into constant attrition. Euromaidan Press says at the same time, Ukraine's effective use of drones has severely limited Russian mobility, making it dangerous for their infantry to move through the shattered remains of the town. Every Russian advance is met with drone surveillance and precision strikes, ensuring that their movements are neither unnoticed nor unpunished. Unlike previous months, when weak spots could be exploited, Ukrainian positions here are now solidified, leaving little room for Russian infiltration. As Russian attempts to encircle Toretsk failed, Ukrainian defenders maintained direct supply roads without significant disruptions. In addition, the Ukrainian brigades engaged in the area are notably better trained and equipped than the Russian units thrown into the fight, which consist mainly of mobilized personnel from occupied parts of Donetsk and Luhansk oblasts, with lower combat morale. This has forced Russian commanders to increasingly rely on airstrikes in an attempt to bomb Ukrainians out of their positions. The frontline situation has prevented Ukraine from positioning its long-range air defense systems closer to Toretsk, allowing Russian jets to operate more freely close to the front without immediate threats from advanced anti-air systems. Russian aircraft have dared to fly closer to provide direct fire support, posing a serious challenge to the Ukrainians. Recognizing the need to counter Russian aerial power, Ukrainian forces have begun to deploy man-portable air defense systems, or MANPADS, as an effective ambush tool. Unlike stationary long-range systems, MANPADS are small, mobile, and difficult to detect. This allows operators to fire from concealed positions before relocating. With the inflow of MANPADS from Sweden, Ukrainians could start using them more freely. Overall, the successful use of man-portable air defense systems in Toretsk has proven how crucial they are for frontline operations. While Ukraine's Western allies have been supplying high-end systems like Patriot to protect critical infrastructure and rear positions, new deliveries of MANPADS from Sweden will provide even more tactical flexibility to Ukrainian forces on the front lines. These additional weapons will allow them to continue denying Russian air superiority in contested areas like Toretsk, forcing Russian pilots to operate at greater risk or longer distances, abandoning clear air support altogether, according to Euromaidan Press.
The chief of the European Union's executive on Tuesday proposed an €800 billion plan to beef up defenses of EU nations to lessen the impact of potential US disengagement and provide Ukraine with military muscle to negotiate with Russia following the freeze of US aid to the embattled nation. According to Associated Press, European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said the massive Rearm Europe package will be put to the 27 EU leaders who will meet in Brussels on Thursday in an emergency meeting following a week of increasing political uncertainty from Washington, where President Donald Trump questioned both his alliance to the continent and the defense of Ukraine. "I do not need to describe the grave nature of the threats that we face," von der Leyen said. Key to the quandary of EU nations has been an unwillingness to spend much on defense over the past decades as they hid under the US nuclear umbrella and a sluggish economy, which creates challenges for a quick ramp-up of such spending. Von der Leyen said the first task is to loosen the fiscal constraints the EU puts on budgetary spending to allow member states to significantly increase their defense expenditures without triggering punishing rules aimed at keeping deficits from going too far into the red. So if member states would increase their defense spending by 1.5% of GDP on average, this could create fiscal space of close to 650 billion euros over a period of 4 years, von der Leyen said. This would be topped up by a loans program of 150 billion euros to allow member states to invest in defense. She said military equipment that needs to be improved includes air and missile defense, artillery systems, missiles and ammunition, drones and anti-drone systems, and cyber preparedness. Such a plan will force many EU member states to greatly increase their military spending, which is still below 2% of gross domestic product. NATO Secretary-General Mark Rutte has told the member states they need to move to more than 3% as quickly as possible.
Good morning, everyone. President von der Leyen will make a statement. We're living in the most momentous and dangerous of times. I do not need to describe the grave nature of the threats that we face, or the devastating consequences that we will have to endure if those threats would come to pass, because the question is no longer whether Europe's security is threatened in a very real way, or whether Europe should shoulder more of its responsibility for its own security. In truth, we have long known the answers to those questions. The real question in front of us is whether Europe is prepared to act as decisively as the situation dictates, and whether Europe is ready and able to act with speed and with the ambition that is needed. This set of proposals focuses on how to use all the financial levers at our disposal in order to help member states to quickly and significantly increase expenditures in defense capabilities, urgently now, but also over a longer period of time over this decade. The first part of this Rearm Europe plan is to unleash the use of public funding in defense on the national level. Member states are ready to invest more in their own security if they have the fiscal space, so we must enable them to do so. And this is why we will propose to activate the national escape clause of the Stability and Growth Pact. This will allow member states to significantly increase their defense expenditures without triggering the excessive deficit procedure. So if member states would increase their defense spending by 1.5% of GDP on average, this could create fiscal space of close to 650 billion euros over a period of 4 years. We are in an era of rearmament, and Europe is ready to massively boost its defense spending, both to respond to the short-term urgency to act and to support Ukraine, but also to address the long-term need to take on more responsibility for our own European security. The second proposal will be a new instrument. It will provide 150 billion euros of loans to member states for defense investment. This is about basically spending better and spending together. And we're talking about pan-European capabilities, domains, like, for example, air and missile defense, the artillery systems, missiles and ammunition, drones and anti-drone systems, but also to address other needs from cyber to military mobility, for example. This will help member states to pool demand and to buy together. And of course, with this equipment, member states can massively step up their support to Ukraine. So immediate military equipment for Ukraine. Europe is ready to assume its responsibilities. Rearm Europe could mobilize close to 800 billion euros of defense expenditures for a safe and resilient Europe. We will, of course, continue working closely with our partners in NATO. This is a moment for Europe, and we are ready to step up.
No questions today. No questions today. There will be later on possibilities.